I'm Guy Allen and I'm sitting on Harley's top-of-the-line tourer, the Electra Glide. Now the Electra Glide should need no introduction. It's a quintessential combination of cruiser and tourer. Big fairing mounted up on the handlebars, distinctive set of spotlights up front, and the rest of the bike, well, it's classic Harley. In this case though, Harley has come a long way over the years, and we'll take this one for a bit of a play. Now I confess to long having had a bit of a soft spot for these bikes. Over recent years they generally haven't handled as well as something like a Road King. That second bike has always been a bit in front. However, I think the gap has narrowed considerably with this, and one of my complaints over the years with the Ultra has often been that at about 120, 130 the handling can start to get a bit loose. You introduce a couple of bumps into a corner and you'll soon find the chassis starting to flex. Now my experience with this 2009-2010 model bike is that that's not the case so much anymore. There's still a hint of flex in there, but nothing like what they used to be. And in fact, it's a much more rigid thing to ride, which is good. Okay, so what's a power plant? It's essentially the standard Harley-Davidson big twin cam engine. Okay, big lump of a V-twin, and with a twin exhaust system out back, fuel injection system feeding it. Now the standard exhausts are very quiet, they have to be to meet local noise regulations, but unlike Harleys from say 10 years ago, this system does actually allow the engine to breathe, so you could live with it as a performance option. It's a tiny bit too quiet for my tastes, but as a touring motorcycle it's not such a bad thing to have. Gearbox is of course a Harley-Davidson 6-speeder, a 6-speeder in a Harley and a touring Harley at that. Top gear of course is effectively an overdrive, so it's very relaxed. The gearbox performs fine. It does like you to take a relatively slow change. It doesn't like to be rushed along too much, but there's really no complaints about this one. Braking is good without being exceptional. The standard of power on the Harley and feel is about average. It's good for a cruiser, it's not particularly good for a sports bike, but for what it is, I have no real complaints. One of the issues I do have with all of these big touring cruisers is there isn't really what I'd regard as good tyres for them. There's reasonable tyres out there, and the standard rubber on this Harley is probably as good as you're going to get for this class of bike. But I really think there's a need to upgrade the rubber for this entire class of motorcycle. Harley has a lot of experience with touring bikes, and it shows on the Electra Glide. They've actually been a pretty well sorted thing for a long time, and that's in the sense of the sorts of equipment they give the passenger and rider. There's little pockets up front for the rider, there's a massive top box out back which will easily take 2 helmets plus a bit of other gear. It's got a luggage rack on top of it, there's 2 panniers, and the windscreen itself is actually quite effective. You've got a good quality sound system on board, and there's plenty of switch gear and dials to play with. The switch gear actually is quite small compared to some of the competitors, but it's well thought out and logically laid out, so once you know the particular bike, you'll have no problem with it. I've actually got a lot of time for the way this motorcycle is laid out. Now presumably you're not going to be doing huge speeds on a motorcycle like this, and given that, the overall performance and handling is quite good. The economy is exceptional. It will quite happily get very high teens, sometimes even as much as 20 to the litre, which is unbelievable for a bike like this. It's no rocket ship. There are in fact quicker cruisers out there. Something that really makes a Harley stand apart, quite apart from the value of that brand name obviously, but something that really helps it to stand apart is the fact it's relatively compact. That's right, an Electra Glide is compact compared to something like a Honda Goldwing for example. So if you want the full touring experience, the full dress experience, but feel that some of the truly enormous tourers are a bit too much for you, you should perhaps have a look at the Harley option. You might be surprised at how much size difference there is. Would I own one? Well, the short answer is yes, I would. I actually sold a Honda Valkyrie Interstate not so long ago, which is a very similar kind of motorcycle, just a bigger version of it if you like. The Harley has a lot of appeal for me. It has a certain cachet all of its own. It's a bit more compact and easy to handle. I actually quite like it, so if I had the money floating around, I could be sorely tempted.